how to make transfers with Remitly. This service is becoming increasingly important, especially in Colombia, because I've noticed that lately the advertising has really focused here. I want to show you directly how people in other countries, or even those in Colombia who want to send money elsewhere, can do it step by step. First of all, when it comes to receiving the money, remember that there are several local withdrawal methods, like De Vivienda, Bancolombia, Nicaib, BBVA, David Plata, Éxito, Mobisco, Chivan, Banco Bogotá, Banco Occidente, and Banco Popular. There are even some that are not here, but that can be used in some way. But well, this is just so that those in Colombia know. If you are in another country, the withdrawal methods for your specific country will appear here. Then up here, what we're going to do first is choose where we're sending money from. So in this case, we have these countries listed from the United States, Germany, Australia, Austria, Belgium, and so on. So here we need to choose if, for example, we're in Spain and we're going to send money to Colombia. The menu updates a bit, although it really ends up being pretty much the same. The only difference is that the exchange rates and fees might vary depending on the currency we're using and obviously the daily TRM. For those from another country who, for example, don't want to receive in Colombia but rather in Brazil, the Dominican Republic, or wherever they want, it's basically the rate we get for each currency that we're going to send. That is, in this case it would be for each. Of euros, how much would they be returning to us then in this sense if, for example, someone is going to send money from Spain to Colombia simply here, if you are sending that money it is here, for example, 500 euros, and here it will seem to you that they receive. That is to say the person who receives the money here in Colombia will receive in this case 2,365,000. So, it tells us here that the fee is 99 cents of a dollar, and basically, this is what we will get. After that, the money can be sent to the person. But we also need to keep in mind something really important. Remember that for making your first transfer, we have a certain discount and promotion. If there happens to be another promotion, I'll leave it in the description so you can use it when making your first transfer. But if you already make a transfer over 500 euros, the commission or the rate at which we're getting each euro might change a bit. In fact, it says here that only the first 500 euros sent are subject to a preferred rate. From there, the rate might change. So it's important to know this, especially since it applies to the first transfer we make. From there, the rate might change. So it's important for you to know this, and it especially applies to the first transfer we make. But we shouldn't just keep this in mind. We also need to consider the fees for sending. So a bank deposit is 0.99, a mobile wallet is 0.99, and if it's a counterpayment, it's 3.99 euros in this case. But always remember to check it beforehand here. So, let's assume that's not the case anymore. Now we're going to send money not from Spain but directly from the United States. So notice that this changes a bit. In fact, the amount changes because before it said 500 euros, and now it says $750. And you can see that the amount is a bit different because it's not going through a bank deposit or anything like that. It's based on the amount. So if it's below $500, the fee is 3.99, and if it's $500 or more, it's 0. This especially applies to the first transfer, which in some cases will have a preferred rate. Here it's more of the same, $100. Let's put it here. This shows up here. But anyway, once we've verified this, let's go ahead and register. I'm going to leave a link in the description. You can come and register. If you're going to make your first transfer, they can get a discount. The discount applies directly here. And we're going to click where it says, get this exchange rate. Or we just click up there to register. In my case, I'm going to do and just right here. Let's create our account. I'm going to create it here with Google. Let's assign our email address here. I started it, as I said, with Google from Gmail, and we're just going to wait for it to finish loading. So the page is loading here. We need to wait a moment. And again, the amount of money will show up here. So our exchange rate is this one right here. And actually, I want to show you today, just as I'm making this video, what the rate is for when you watch this video in the future and see the difference. Right now, it's offering me this rate of 4,277, which, let's quickly open the calculator here and do this subtraction. So it's really at 4,295.58, and we're going to subtract 4,277.32 from that. The difference is 18.26. It's not much, but remember, it's because it's my first transfer. So, well, it tells us that there are offers for new customers, which is what I was saying. If you're going to make a transfer for the first time, it's the best because they give you the best offers. After that, it's different. Let's click where it says send money in the upper left. left, and this is where the whole process will be. So first things first, we have to choose what we're sending, like how many dollars we're going to send. Let's say $100, and here it tells us that the person will receive 427,732. Then we need to see what we're going to send to make for this payment. First of all, if it's express, then this is Remitly's fastest option, as it says here, and we can pay with a debit or credit card. Plus, we have this preferential rate for being the first transfer. Remember that. And then we have the financial part, where certain fees wouldn't apply. But honestly, I recommend this express option as long as it's below that amount. It can be good when we start sending higher amounts or for more than the first transfer. So for the first transfer, this is irrelevant. I would choose Express because it's the fastest, and once we have it here, we'll click Continue. But before we continue, read what it says down here, as people often say, no, but no one told me this at any point, and they don't realize that it's right there on the page as is. And it tells us here that the offer for new customers was applied. This transfer is fee-free, and a promotional exchange rate will apply for the first $750. The standard exchange rate will apply to the rest of this transfer. This is what's known as Sprint, or you can also call it FI, which is basically a fee, although in this case, it will be a difference. And even though the dollar is at this value here, what they do, well, in this case in Colombia, is that they take a different price. So they pay you 4,100, and that differential value of 200 pesos is often the commission that the entity takes, in this case Remitly. Then, the sending time is an estimate that is calculated based on the payment method. Also depending on the shipping method, the transaction review, and the availability of Remitly's system and our partners, as it says here. And it says that the speed might not be available on the screen, but the estimate will always be shown in the shipping summary before you complete your transfer request. So here it tells us that it's express, but don't think it arrives instantly either. So let's go ahead and click Continue here and see what else it asks us. Shipping method: how you want money delivered. In this case, it's for the person receiving the money. In Colombia, you are going to send to another country. So then, how is that person going to receive it in that country? So in terms of the transfer, in the case of Colombia, we have three options. Bank deposit, a savings account, cash withdrawal at a place that allows you to withdraw directly there, or a mobile wallet, NEC, and there's also Plata, Movo, etc. And in the case of cash withdrawal, it applies at bank branches or at places like, for example, the cashier at an Éxito or a Corolla or a Super Inter. This is exclusively for Colombia. Remember that it's different for each country. And finally, bank deposit is if we want to send money to a person directly to their savings account. Now, this one has a small asterisk, and this is precisely what it says here, and it is the recipient's account must be enabled to receive international money transfers or the transfer will be delayed. And it does not say here, but it could also be that it is rejected, and that is a mess after the money is returned. So if we are going to send the money to a person, it is better that before sending the money we ask them or tell them to call the bank and have the bank confirm if they have international money transfers enabled or not, so that they can directly receive the money, because if not, then it is much better for us to go back here and select one of these other options, cash withdrawal at a success box this, and then directly enter the data. On this occasion, we are going to do it this way. Here we are also doing a test so that you will see the step-by-step. So here we are going to put Carlos and Minis and Gonzalez as it appears there. We are going to hit continue, and then here it tells us the recipient's address. So this is again the address of the person to whom we are going to send the money. So again we put here, as it says, Street 99C101, for example. In city we go to Bogota, and in department, Bogota. Continued. Obviously, I'm doing this just to run this test and trial, but it's really important that you fill in all this information accurately and with real and truthful data so you don't have any issues when sending the money. Then it asks if you would like us to send a message to the recipient with updates about the shipment. This is basically so that once we send the money to the person, they receive text messages on their phone indicating that someone has sent them this money, that the money is in process. And then they get another message saying that the money is on its way to their account, or things like that. Basically until the money has been deposited into their account. If we want this to happen, we put the person's phone number here. But if we don't want to notify the person and prefer to keep them updated ourselves, we can skip this and not enter any phone number. Now, for the reason for the transfer, in this case, the money we're going to send to that person will be for family support, education, savings, loan payment, or utility payment, or for goods, insurance payments, tax payments, or donations. So, well, that really depends on you. I'm going to leave it as family support, and then we'll click continue. Then your information in this case is, well, I don't think I need to explain it, but it's basically just like our information, meaning this is from the sender, the person who would be in the United States or Spain sending the money. So here I'm going to put a name, Camilo Vargas, and we'll enter the date of birth. I just want to clarify that for this, we have to be of legal age, just in case it's worth mentioning. And here we put any date. So we put 8 here. And then let's put 1990 here. So, February 8th, 1990. We click continue. Now, the details must match exactly with what's on your identification. The transfer can be delayed if the details don't match. And here you click confirm. And here we enter our address, our city, state, etc. In this case, it will automatically load the address from the United States. So we need to enter it here. Here I'm going to put anything. I'm here. New York, New York. Here, I'll leave the zip code. I'll click continue. In this case, it requires me to enter a zip code. I'm going to put it in and click continue. And then here it asks me to enter my phone number. This phone number is mandatory to receive the message that they'll contact us via phone call or text message regarding our Remitly account or the transfer. Of course, this changes a bit here, and we don't necessarily have to put a phone number from the country we're in. It could be that you don't have one, so you can click here, where it says USA, +1 or whatever shows up here. And here directly search, in my case, for example, Colombia, and put in a Colombian phone number. So here I can just click on it and simply put any number to show you how to continue with this. We click continue. Well, there is a postal code error here, but don't worry about that. This probably won't be an issue for you, and it's just that the zip code needs to match the address I entered. So I'm going to put in a zip code that matches and we'll continue. Done. Once we have done this, it will launch us to the method. Payment, meaning what we're going to add. So in this case, it allows me to add a debit or credit card or pay directly with a bank account. Here it tells us this text that credit cards usually treat remittances as cash advances. Use a debit card to avoid cash advance fees. So basically, what happens is that in Colombia, to put it simply, it's like an advance, as if we were taking out an advance. This sometimes makes the number of monthly payments or installments, as we call them here, automatically 24 months or 36 months, depending on how we have the card set up. So that's something to keep in mind. It also says here that we're going to treat it like a cash advance, and then we can also make the payment with the card. It says modifying the payment method to a bank account will change the delivery time to economical, which can impact the exchange rate and fees. So this will change if we click here. Let's go ahead and click. And here it tells us to add a bank account. And look, we need to add our account details. So we have to choose between a checking account or a savings account. Now, there's something else to keep in mind. And what it's going to ask us for here are account numbers from the United States. In this case, because I'm sending money from the United States. So here, we definitely have to provide a bank account from the United States. If you're sending money from a country that's not on Remitly's list, it won't let you and you won't have the option. Well, in my case, I'm going to go back here and click to add a new card. And here I have to add a card to be able to continue. So I'm going to put this here. But oh well, what a shame. From here on, it basically won't let me continue because it's asking for a card from the United States, and I don't have one right now. But basically, after this, it's going to ask us which payment method we want to use to send the money, and it asks for the ID number of the person we're sending it to so they can withdraw the cash. And once the money arrives, the person just goes to the place where they're going to receive the money, and they show their ID, meaning they hand it over, and just like that, they'll get their cash. And once we've done all the deposit transfer stuff, we click here on History of Transactions, and it will show up there. In this case, if you encounter a problem similar to mine, it's basically because since we're sending money from the United States, it only allows us to add a card if the card is issued in the United States. But since this card wasn't issued in the United States, I get this message saying we can't authorize your card. So it's important to know this before sending the money. Although it may not be the only reason, and in that case we could do what I did here, and that is to contact our bank to tell them that we are trying to make a transfer, and sometimes it can get to. It will be received as an international transfer, so they will ask us if we authorize these transactions, and we say yes, then we re-enter the details, and that's it. Once we have everything, as I mentioned, it will show up here in the transaction history, and you will see it in progress. It will detail how long it will take, if it has arrived, and if the person has already picked it up, in case you chose the cash withdrawal method. And that's it. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have more questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye.